Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Ontario set a grim record today, 51 deaths due to COVID-19, the highest number in one day in Ontario. 1/3 of those deaths are connected to long-term care and retirement homes, where new measures to prevent the spread came into effect today. But family members we spoke with worry the changes may be too late. Talia Ricci has more.
My biggest fear is these residents are all dying alone, number one.
Helen Lee's 111-year-old grandmother tested positive for COVID-19. She lives at Mung Shang Home for the Aged, where there have been 10 deaths.
We'll see too many deaths. We need resources right now. We need nurses, we need PSW, we need housekeeping.
Today, the Premier said help is coming.
We'll go further in our testing, screening, surveillance, targeting the homes facing outbreaks. We will ensure the staff at these homes have the tools they need. That means strengthening protocols, training, and education on infection prevention and control.
All symptomatic staff and residents at long-term care homes will now be screened, as well as any asymptomatic residents or staff who came in contact with someone with the virus. Ford says PPE will arrive at long-term care homes in need within 24 hours, and that COVID-19 SWAT teams have been formed.
Drawn from our hospitals, home care, and public health care units to help homes manage outbreaks.
St. Clair O'Connor community has lost 7 of its 25 residents. Like many long-term care homes, staffing has been one of its biggest challenges.
One of the things I think that's really important for people to understand is people on the front line are human, and every one of us are bone tired, and we're fearful for the residents that we're looking after.
The province says some hospital staff will be redirected, and it's also matching retired healthcare workers, students, and internationally trained professionals with short-staffed homes. Today, the Prime Minister said the government is working to boost wages for those caring for the vulnerable residents in these difficult conditions.
Our government will work with the provinces and territories to boost wages for essential workers who are making under $2,500 a month, like those in our long-term care facilities.
Families waiting to see these promises turn into action say every minute counts.
Lives are at stake. These seniors deserve better.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
A CBC News investigation is looking into what kind of shape many of our long-term care homes were in before this pandemic. We've dug through government records and found Ontario has all but stopped detailed resident quality inspections of long-term care homes. Now, these were surprise inspections meant to check staffing levels, training, and infection control measures. For example, at Pinecrest, where at least 29 people died, well, it last faced a resident quality inspection in June of 2018. Eatonville, where at least 25 died, was last checked in September of 2017. Seven Oaks, site of 22 deaths, June 2018. And Anson Place, where 19 residents died, it was June 2017 when it had its last inspection. So what do Premier Ford and his ministers have to say about this lack of inspections? Here's our Queen's Park reporter, Mike Crawley, asking them about it earlier today.
Premier, can you explain why the government stopped doing comprehensive inspections of long-term care homes in Ontario last year? And I'd ask you to make sure that you please talk about the comprehensive annual inspections, not inspections in response to complaints, but we've learned through CBC's investigation that all but a handful of the 600 and something long-term care homes did not receive a comprehensive annual inspection last year. What's your explanation for why this happened?
Well, it's better answered by one of my ministers here.
We moved to a risk-based inspection process, really to make sure that the homes that were at highest risk were getting the attention that they needed. We also maintained inspections on a yearly basis for all homes. So the move was to a risk-based method, which we believed would help identify and support those homes in greatest need. Thank you.
Well, if I could follow up, is there any explanation as to why only 9 homes of the 630 homes actually deserved that full inspection. You didn't think that the risks existed at the other 620 homes. And can you tell people that there is no way that reduction in inspections contributed to what we're seeing in the long-term care homes today?
Well, looking globally, the long-term care homes are on the front lines. All across the world, it is the long-term care homes that are being severely affected by this. So the approach with the risk-based approach for long-term care inspections was in addition to annual inspections that go on through all of the 626 long-term care homes. And in addition, there's an action line for anyone who's concerned about anything in the home that they find worrisome. So we act on all those, and we act swiftly. This is a global situation across the world in terms of the effect in long-term care homes.
So as you heard there, no clear answer on why only 9 homes were inspected last year from the Minister for Long-Term Care, Dr. Marilee Fullerton. And we have a tragic update tonight about that Markham home for adults with physical and developmental disabilities. At least one resident has now died from COVID-19. A majority of the people who live there, along with a dozen workers, have tested positive. That caused most of the rest to walk off the job last week. Kelda Yun has the latest.
The tragic news came this morning from Participation House. One of its residents, Martin Frogley, had passed. His family released a statement saying Martin passed peacefully, listening to music he loved. He was a wonderful son, uncle, and the best brother anyone could ask for. 37 of the 42 residents of the home have tested positive. Scott Kerr's daughter, Emily, is one of them. She is fortunately doing much better.
It's heartbreaking when you see these people that are not going to pull through this.
He says he doesn't blame staff for walking off the job to protect their health.
Until you're put into that situation, you don't know how you're going to react.
12 staff members are also infected, including Ivy Albania, who tested positive last week.
It's very painful how they painted us as we are heartless. We are heartbroken, and we are sorry that we cannot do anything.
She says staff cared deeply about the residents, but lacked PPE and were understaffed and overworked.
I work from 3 o'clock in the evening until 7 o'clock the next morning. That's how stretched we are.
There definitely has to be some process changes at these facilities, but I just think at this time too as well that we need to all come together and pull together as a community.
Markham Stouffville Hospital created a rapid response team to support Participation House. Former Health Minister Jane Philpott is also providing clinical support. She also put out a call for PPE. Markham City Councillor Alan Ho and a team of volunteers heeded that call this afternoon.
They have donated, 2,000 masks to them and also some sanitizer.
I think the lesson, the painful lesson to be learned is that we really need to be getting as much funding and support for these care facilities to take care of these most vulnerable people.
Kelda Yun, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, there have been at least 40 cases of COVID-19 diagnosed in the city's emergency shelters, and concern over the virus has some avoiding shelters altogether and setting up their own tent cities. The situation prompting a protest by homeless advocates outside City Hall today.
Time is not on our side. The city needs to move now, and it needs to act rapidly to move people into hotels and housing.
Well, advocates say many promised hotel rooms sit empty. Mayor says the city has been moving as fast as it can, moving 1,000 people in the last few weeks. Meanwhile, a church and drop-in center downtown has turned into a makeshift tent city, with residents there saying they don't feel comfortable staying in city shelters during the pandemic. And the TTC says 38 bus operators walked off the job today over a lack of personal protection equipment.
Okay, everybody, this is Queensway Division we're at right now. Just reporting that there's a work refusal being done because we all want masks. All the operators want masks.
This is a Facebook video taken outside the Queensway garage in Etobicoke tonight, where 33 workers left their jobs over workplace safety concerns. TTC spokesperson Stuart Green says the Ministry of Labour is reviewing the matter. And earlier today, 5 bus operators at the Wilson division also walked out, although in that case, the Labour Ministry ruled in the TTC's favour, saying the circumstances reported by the workers did not meet the conditions of a work refusal. And police are still looking for a man who spit in the face of a GO train operator last night. It's heightening the fear many transit workers have about doing their jobs and whether there's enough protective equipment. Natalie Collada has more.
They drive the buses and trains across Toronto and the GTA and are considered an essential service. Yet without proper protection,
I cannot go to work without protecting myself, and I'm totally stressed out.
This Metrolinx bus driver says she hasn't been given a mask or gloves. She's worried for her job, so we agreed to protect her identity.
We have to handle people's luggage. Sometimes there's elderly people that need to get on that you need to help them out. You touch people sometimes. And when you walk onto a bus, you're not 6-point-something feet away.
Physical distancing is one concern, but assault is another. Last night, Barrie police were called when a GO train passenger spit in a driver's face. The employee was taken to hospital and is now isolating at home. Metrolinx says it started installing plastic barriers for drivers and something better than masks the union is asking for.
Instead of the N95s that they're referring to, we have something that Public Health has said is even better for our staff, which is the face shields. So it's a little cap on your head and the shield goes down at the front. That really protects them from the biggest risk, probably.
Every minute that is wasted.
Still, the Amalgamated Transit Union says that is not enough.
I've been battling this for 10 or 12 weeks now, and I can't tell you how frustrated I am.
Manny Sforza says he's been calling on Metrolinx and the TTC to supply all workers with gloves, masks, and hand sanitizer, and says the TTC has plenty to go around. He shared this photo of the TTC's stockpile of masks.
They received a shipment of 220,000 masks last Thursday, on top of what they have in their inventory. So there's no excuse any longer not to be providing masks, not to be protecting our members. There's no more excuses.
In a statement to the CBC, the TTC says all frontline operators and maintenance staff who require them will get them. But the union says that doesn't include every frontline worker like drivers or customer service agents. And if employees feel unsafe, they can refuse to go to work. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
Those of us that are sitting at home and just wish we could get out and support these businesses, the reality is there are some ways that we can.
It is Takeout Day in Toronto. We'll tell you about the effort to help you help local businesses while still staying home. Plus.
Oh boy, what a cool start to the day today. Is it going to happen again tomorrow? I'm afraid so. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. We'll have a look at your forecast coming up after the break. And yes, it does seem like not only some cool air, but a return of some wet flurries coming our way.
A water main break flooded the streets tonight at King and Church, closing down the intersection, likely until morning. Toronto Police and Fire are on scene, investigating what led to this. Well, let's welcome meteorologist Colette Kennedy with her forecast. And I'm hoping, Colette, we won't see flurries again tomorrow.
You know, Mike, it's one of these situations with the weather where it's like Groundhog Day. Every day kind of repeats. So tomorrow, there is that chance yet again for some scattered wet flurries, but less. We won't see as much, not as much moisture to work with. And in terms of the winds, not as strong for the lake effect. So we're slowly getting there with some improvement. Hey, today it was a real struggle with the temperature starting off very cool this morning at -4. And then by lunchtime, up on the positive side of that, up to 4 degrees. And then through the afternoon, it was an up and down kind of roller coaster. We dropped down to 2 and then came back up to 4, then to 3. And that's the way it went, with some of those wet flurries coming in, kind of pushing the temperature down at times. Overnight tonight, that temperature is really getting pushed down. We're going to -5 for our overnight low, feeling close to -10, even though the winds do back off a little bit. And tomorrow afternoon, a high of just 5, and there's that sort of repeat with the winds picking up a little, enough to bring in some, instead of this time scattered, I'd say some isolated flurries coming through our skies as we go through the day on Thursday. So that's the sense of a little bit of an improvement there, right? Now, Thursday night into Friday, there's a system passing to the south, so I really want those of you in southwestern Ontario to kind of hear this, because we are looking at some wet snow, light stuff, but still coming through Thursday night, still hanging in there Friday morning. And then as the temperature comes up a little bit, it turns more into a mix or some scattered showers. Could see this just giving a glancing blow there around St. Catharines and Niagara Falls. Certainly a little extra cloud cover around Hamilton and Burlington region. But for the GTA, as long as this stays on the track, it looks like it's going, that stays then to the south and doesn't have an impact, so that Friday's looking like a decent day in terms of the sky conditions. Now, I do want to show you those winds because they tend to come back. They drop back a little bit through the overnight, and then they kind of get gustier through the daytime, and that's where we get into seeing a little bit of lake effect still. Overnight tonight in southwestern Ontario, -4, feels like -8. Tomorrow, highs of 5 to 6 degrees, a few flurries here and there. It's late day, that system will have an impact. And then overnight in the GTA, -7 Markham, -5 elsewhere, and looking like it feeling at -8 to -10. And just keep in mind the morning hours. If you are one of our essential workers, you're heading out early, it's still going to be that cool tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, 5 degrees with just a little bit of light precipitation scattered around. And then as we look at Friday, that's where things are starting to come up with the temperature. Starting 7 degrees, Saturday 11, and we'll have more sunshine. Looks like a really nice day, actually. Sunday, still nice with the temperature, but another system front coming through is going to bring some showers back into our skies. But it will be showers, Mike, because of the temperature.
Okay, thank you, Colette.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
A group of small business owners and local politicians met over Zoom today to discuss their worries about how their stores will survive. Tomorrow marks the last day businesses are able to pay rent for the month of April before their landlords can start evicting them.
And with 50% loss in revenue or more and fixed expenses staying relatively the same, the biggest portion of those fixed expenses is rent. And having to still pay rent is something that's going to put businesses under. Now, small businesses in our community are something that give back to the community. They make big investments in our community, and without that support from the provincial government, it's going to be something where many of them do go out of business for good.
City Councillor Paula Fletcher organized the meeting. Many businesses have seen their incomes dry up since mid-March due to the COVID-19 outbreak. The group is asking for the province to step up and help save small businesses who are just trying to make it through this pandemic. Well, did you bother cooking dinner tonight, or did you order takeout? This was Takeout Day in Toronto, an initiative launched by the Tourism Board to support local businesses struggling during COVID-19. Ali Chasson checked in with some of the restaurateurs trying to make it work.
Right now, our operation is through phone calls only and placing their orders for a very specific pickup time, and that's the only way right now.
Tell me about the decision to not go with the apps.
We just can't afford to. We can't afford the 30% commission that they take. Things are hard enough already. We're just keeping above water.
Your favorite restaurants, bars, and breweries are just doing what they can to make it through this. On a nice warm day, the patio is usually packed at Bandit Brewery.
It's going to be a bit different, this year, at least only at the beginning, hopefully.
Knowing they can't rely on that business for the foreseeable future, they've laid off their kitchen staff and just focus on brewing and beer delivery.
That allows us to remain partially open.
You'll find Bandit Brewery and Vit Bao listed on the To Go Toronto website launched by the city.
The crisis right now is so acute that many restaurants just won't be able to stay in business, and we know that. And the challenges are many and complex, but there are a lot of businesses that have been able to pivot to a focus on takeout and delivery. And for those that are trying and doing their best to keep their staff employed, keep those kitchens open, we wanted to provide a way that people around the city could find out who's open.
And about how many businesses do you have on this platform?
So there's over 200 right now, and more being added, literally dozens being added every day.
Hi everyone! There's actually a national movement happening at the same time, trying to make every Wednesday Takeout Day until the COVID-19 pandemic is over.
For those of us that are sitting at home and just wish we could get out and support these businesses, the reality is there are some ways that we can.
You can always order like a gift card. I'm not saying that like people should definitely have, they have to come out to a restaurant and order takeouts in order to support us. Even just shouting out on social media like your favorite places and just like sharing a little bit of love means a lot.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, coming up, we'll introduce you to a group of volunteers doing their part to make sure families in need have food on their tables during the pandemic. We'll have that story after the break. With so many people in Toronto now out of work, more and more are finding it difficult to put food on the table. But a group of volunteers is doing their part to help. They've created an organization called the People's Pantry with the goal of getting food to families in need. Greg Ross has that story.
I'm so sorry, Brett. Oh, no. This is one of the more than 250 grocery care packages that the People's Pantry has delivered in the last month.
We offer people two options, these hot meal deliveries or grocery care packages. It's one of those things where it's just sort of no questions asked. If you need food, reach out. We'll try and provide you whatever we can do. And it ranges everything from like single individual people to like larger families of like 6 to 8 people.
Ellie Adeker and her partner Jan Garcia say when they started doing this last month, they used social media to let people know that they were willing to help.
We started doing deliveries to our friends and networks that were having trouble accessing grocery stores because of some of the hoarding and some of the long lines. And so we just started making hot meals and doing grocery care package deliveries directly to people's homes.
They quickly realized that they were not the only ones who were looking to make a difference. Adeker and Garcia partnered with other people in their community to create the People's Pantry.
So our volunteer base is larger than 30 people now, and we're doing like dozens of deliveries every day.
I think that there's something powerful about knowing that you're not by yourself right now.
Britt Caron is one of those volunteers, making daily deliveries to some of the farthest reaches of the city in her car.
I'm typically trying to take the packages that are quite far from here because a lot of folks are using their bikes.
Many others who can't volunteer are still helping.
We started crowdfunding. People are also giving us donations that can afford to in this time, which is really nice as well.
And as long as people are willing to give, Adeker says the People's Pantry will keep making deliveries to those who need it.
It's a shocking time and it's a difficult time, but it's also very heartwarming to see people come together like this.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, that's our newscast for tonight. Tomorrow on CBC Radio, the teams behind The Current and Q are combining their resources for an extended morning program. Tom Power will be speaking with the duo behind Choir, Choir, Choir. You may have seen one of their videos online or even taken part in one of their regular drop-in choir events. Those aren't happening anymore, but they are still finding ways to inspire people through song. You can hear that tomorrow around 10:30 on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.